So today is the 7th of January. This is the public session for TVP Support. And I'm Pejman Parchon, and I will be hosting today. So just to start with a disclaimer, which we feel is very important to start off with, is that I don't represent the Venus Project. I'm working with them, and I'm as involved as you can be regarding the material, about the learning aspect of it. So, for example, I am a regional coordinator for Sweden. I'm going in a course that is approved by Roxanne, which is called the SCP. And we're 5 people that are doing that. And I host with my partner, Sue, the people that want to become regional coordinators. So me and her, we do that together for 22 weeks. We have them once a week and we go over the material with them. And on Mondays and Thursdays, I have a group of people, 6 people, which we meet two times a week, and we go through the material. So that part of it, I'm as involved as can be. But I'm going to tell you this right now, is that 1 year from now, when I look back at my answers that I'm going to give you today, I know they will be lacking because there is constant improvement regarding this subject. It isn't, a simple answer will be complete. You're always going to improve your answers. Okay, so see you in next year, and we're going to see a change there, hopefully. So I was thinking about starting off with the thing you asked me, Cheryl, about what is the difference between these systems, such as socialism and communism, and how the Venus Project is different. Now I'm going to do something which a person, my drawing skills aren't good, and when you don't have those skills and you're going to use a mouse, they don't become better. But I feel like a point comes across much better when I try to illustrate it. So for that reason, we're going to try to draw today. So to us, capitalism or socialism and even communism, they are basically the same thing. When you get down to the bottom of what makes these systems go around, at the bottom thing is profit. Are you making profit in this system you're trying to use? If you don't have that, it doesn't work. And in these systems, they will try many different things. They will raise your taxes. They will lower your taxes. They might give you basic income. But at the end of the day, is it making profit? That is the most important thing in these systems. So when they ask a question, they ask, can you take care of people? Is there profit in it? Can you take care of the environment? Where is the profit? It always comes back to that. It has to be a correlation for them to be able to push it through. Now, all things aren't like that. Hopefully you have kids and, when you give them something, you don't say, you owe me. But most of the things in this system are bound to this. Now, the difference is in a resource-based economy, the base of the game is different. There, what is looked at instead of money is how to improve the lives of people while taking care of the environment. That is the base of the game. That is how decisions are moved around. Now, there's a key element in that, and it's the resources. But to be able to illustrate this, I'm going to give you a question, and I'm going to give you how these questions are different in these two systems. The question is, for example, can you give housing to everybody on planet Earth? In capitalism, the question or the answer is no. There isn't enough money, might be the answer. You say no, based on, it's too expensive. We can't give people housing, even though we have more empty houses than homeless people. It can't be done. In a resource-based economy, that question goes to what are the resources? What kind of technology do we have? And do we have the people to be able to perform that? If you have these things, then you can do those things. So the system we talk about reflects reality. What are we capable of doing? You look at that instead of looking at something that has no connection to reality, which is money. Money does not reflect our capabilities. There is no correlation there. Do you want to ask a question? Question? Sure. Yeah. Let me unmute you there.
Okay, so I live in Miami, and I have a lot of Cuban people who were from Cuba who say that this kind of situation never worked, and that everybody got the same amount. Doctors got this, doctors got, and regular people got that, and all of a sudden people didn't want to work anymore, and people didn't want to do anything. So what is the difference here?
Yeah, okay, great question. Okay, that's a great question. And that comes back to the name of the game. In capitalism, doing something and doing less, might bring you more money. And, I say my back is hurting, I get money. Fantastic. I'm not going to work. That's great. In a resource-based economy, the way it is designed is that the more you are involved in improving it, the more feedback you get from that system. So you are rewarded the more you take care of that system. It becomes like Jacque Fresco's example with the human body. The more you take care of it, the more you can use it. So in the future, let me just get this point across, and then I'm going to permit you. So in today's society, if I can take, I'm going to sell products to the doctor, to this hospital. I'm going to sell them something. And, I'm not going to give them the best. I'm going to give them that which gives me profit. So I say, here are your tools. And I might not need that surgery. So I say, I made a profit. Great. In the future, the system we talk about, I'm going to give you the best tools I can, because there is no profit for me in holding back. The better tools I give you, the better you take care of the engineer that is going to build my house, the teacher that is going to teach my children. So it's a connected system. But in today's society, where are the benefits for me? If I can screw over this person and I'm rewarded, I have an incentive to do that. I'm going to unmute you if you want to ask another question.
So how do we do that without governments? Because the governments are the ones that are holding a lot of us back. Many of us want to go ahead with these things and create these things and work together. But we have so many governments throughout the world that want to make a profit and want to make money. And that's what they're there for. They're not there for us. They're there for them.
Yeah, and that reflects all aspects of this society. When you go to a car mechanic, it says, what is it in for me? Do these tires need changing? Yes, because there's profit. The doctor looks at you and says, well, x-rays. And somebody else that doesn't have any profit says, why? So it's not just the government. All aspects of this society pushes people towards do that, even though, yeah, exactly. So they're pushed towards that. Now, your second question regarding how to get away from that is a very broad topic, which I'm gonna take a little bit later, because that one is, the transition. And I usually like to wait with that question. So we have some fundamentals. And then when I give you that answer, you might be able to connect with the things that we talk about. Now, if anybody else has a question, please raise your hand, or I'm going to look at the chat. If possible, when writing a question, please try to summarize the essence of what it is you're trying to say. And also when asking a question, this will save us a lot of time. Let's see here. Matt, I'm going to read your question here. Let's see here. Human behavior is more environmentally developed, and the concept of cooperative advantage is true, and some do withdraw their effort if they think they are being treated less than expected. But this is a current state versus change issue, not a perpetual human nature one. Yeah, so what Matt is trying to make a point here is that if you can change the circumstances, this is what the whole basis of what we think or look at people, the way we look at them is that if you change the circumstances, you will get a different outcome. Nobody's born good, bad. We don't play with those concepts. We just look at the environment and say, these people went to school to become car mechanics. Based on that, we feel like a few of them will become car mechanics because they were in that environment. These people were born in poverty. The police were harassing them. They had no way of eating. There is a probability that they will go towards crime, not because of their race, but because of their circumstances. Yes, Pedro, I'm going to give you, I'm going to unmute you here, Pedro. Give me 1 second. There you go.
Hi, everyone. So my question is the following. You said the incentive was on money. The bottom line of those systems, be it communism or capitalism, was money. So I was thinking, what would be the bottom line in terms of rules? Because here we have a rule, maximize profits. It's implicit in every business. Literally, their goal is to grow profits. So what would be the goal in a business in the future? So would it be to maximize knowledge, or maybe there is no name for exactly what should be maximized? What is your thoughts?
Yeah, can I ask you something, Pedro?
Of course.
How much material have you watched regarding the Venus Project?
Right. So I have translated some videos myself to Portuguese. I'm a volunteer. I never became a point of contact, but I absorbed many of the recommended content, most through my translations.
Yeah.
I have read some recommended books like Veblen's The Society of Osho's Society. So he coined the term productive. How would you call that?
I remember the author, but not the book.
Yeah,
I forgot it. Yeah.
The leisure class. So
okay.
He stated that when you have leisure, people become inventive and so on. He also has a book on engineers and the price system. I read a little bit of the book. I went through general semantics quite a lot. So I have read about Alfred Korzybski,
yeah.
Stuart
That's
Chase.
Good. That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Let me just summarize your question again.
Yeah.
Your question is, if it isn't money, what is the incentive of the future? Yeah.
Yeah. What would we place what would replace the rules? So, for example, I have a very simple rule to maximize knowledge. If you say to everyone, state a rule, be it in terms of service or governmental rule, you say you only can use services which you know you have a foundation of the knowledge of. So you have to study solid state physics to use cell phones. This is an incentive to make people, since they're kids, to, instead of giving them nonsense or Mickey Mouse, you give them mathematics, physics, statistics, and so on. So this is a simple rule. Of course, it's too simplistic, but what would be that incentive?
Thank you for that question. Thank you. Thank you for waving your hands to the rescue. Okay, let's start from the top. Now, the incentive of in today's society, let's start there just to clarify it. If you have a company and your production is going higher, that doesn't mean that you're going to give the high production to people and say, hey, listen, I can make cars 10 times cheaper. Here you go. Have a better life. Enjoy the car. Instead, all companies look at where is the profit. So their incentive is constantly not to relieve pain. It is to look at what does it do for me. So they're always looking at that. I'm going to give you the same point again, Pedro, which I just did. And let me know if it isn't clear, the example that I'm using. The future, the incentive is that I am rewarded by helping others because they reward me. You have to have it functioning in that manner, not just verbally saying it and it's not applied. It has to be designed in a way that the more I give, the more it is given back to me. For example, if I'm raising other people's children, I'm assisting them with that. When I come home, I see that, hey, the engineer's children that I took care of built this house for me. These things have been supplied to me. There's a connection. I see that connection, that the more I give to the system rewards it back to me. That's what you need. You have to have that kind of incentive. I'm going to ask Rick first and then Cheryl. Hey, Rick.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, good to have you.
I've been thinking about this and assuming that enough people in different countries decide that a resource-based economy is the way to go. At some point, a country has to decide, okay, we're gonna do it this way. We've educated people, and this is how we're gonna do it. We're gonna manage our resources. So I'm wondering, in the future, would individual countries have to agree that within their borders, they assess their own resource capabilities, technology, and human power, and design their own programs? So like the US would do their thing, and then say Mexico and so on around the world. What do you see for that?
So first off, it is now we're the subject I was trying to avoid, Cheryl, with the transition, because this one is a bit complex, easy when you see the connections, but here in the beginning, let's try it out. For us, this is how I talk about the transition from this society to something else, okay? for us, nothing, let me just turn this off. Now, for us, nothing in the world just moves by itself. There is something that is pushing it, whether you can see it or not. So for a society to move from capitalism to what we want means that something wasn't working. And to us, capitalism, by its design, is designed not to work. That's where the profit lies. When you have a problem, the profit is in your problem. Very few times does a person want to completely solve your problem because you're not coming back. So capitalism is pulled towards problems. And one of the major ways for them to not just generate problems for themselves, but to get profit is this curve that we use, is that when production goes higher and you start to automate, to keep profits up, you start to push people out of the system. Say, there is no work for you. And person says, I worked there for 30 years. They say, that's great. You did a fine job, but there is no work for you. So at the end of this system, you will have high production capabilities to produce whatever you want, but nobody's buying. It is through this system of automation that countries and society is forced to change. That's what you had in the US when the president says, here is $600. He was forced to. But if you would have gone back 20 years and said, President, whoever, can you give $600 to everybody? He says, no. That sounds like communism, socialism. We don't do that shit here. So the circumstances forces the behavior of governments to change. And then they might try, basic income. That won't solve your problem. It's just another $600 that temporarily gives relief to the system. Sooner or later, the system stops functioning. Then you have to, society doesn't sit back and say, hope you guys solve this, take your time. A few problems cause many problems in society. What they have to do sooner or later is that they bring in people that have ways of tackling problems. So they give them an assignment, just like they give people an assignment. Can you get us to the moon? They say, we don't know. We have to, look into things. They will bring in people and say, can you make this society stable so it isn't fragmented because we're losing control? And they will say, yes, we will give it a shot. And they will say, if you give people, this is what we do. If you give people housing, give them food, then you don't need to have a police officer, somebody from the army standing outside their house. This is what they want. If you supply them, it's cheaper than to do it the other way. So they're forced by those circumstances to go in a new direction, and they supply these things to people. And then somebody says, if you educate them, it's better because now they can give back to society. So that's how the transition comes about. It isn't through a great lecture of me talking and everybody applauding, because that doesn't change circumstances. If you're still eating, you say, great lecture, and then you go back and you eat and you go to your restaurant. It is when you go back, there is no eating, that's when people change. And if you want to take one lesson from Bitcoin, is that it has nothing to do with TVP, just to clarify that. But the lesson from that is that all people are seeking opportunities. And when somebody says, here is nothing, but if you buy it, you're going to get something, a lot of people move in that direction. That's what the Venus Project, if it gets that opportunity, it will say, here is something, that is going to improve your life. And people, when they're living in a system that doesn't work, they're going to move towards that. Just like refugees move towards the Red Cross in a country that takes them in and says, we need help. The person stands there and they say, I need help. I lost everything. They say the tent is over there. This is fantastic. The doctor might see you in 10 days because we have one doctor. The person stays there because they have to. So it comes through that. It doesn't get voted in. People will not sit and discuss this, because it's just like going to the king and saying, hey, your system is old. We want to try capitalism. The king doesn't sit back and say, fantastic. I'm so happy that you guys want to try something new. What you can do is that the more you know about it, the more you're prepared, the easier it is to step into what can be relevant and know when to put aside the things that aren't. Something like that. Rick, let me know if I missed anything. Okay. That one is very difficult, because the reason it's difficult to explain is because I'm just going to give a short explanation for that. I've heard Jacque Fresco say this many times in his lectures. He says, I give this answer regarding the transition, but it seems like people don't hear me. And the reason is that when you're thinking about the transition from here to over here, you think about it in the way you have been brought up to think about it. A great president is going to bring me into the future. Democracy is going to bring me into the future. Elon Musk is so inventive. He is going to take me there. To us, we learn other tools. Therefore, we say the circumstances are going to bring us into the future. The scientific method will arrive at what is appropriate, not by politicians. They will not sit down and discuss things. They will put people in place and say, what have you arrived at? And they say, this is the appropriate approach we know of today to make life better for all of us, or they're going to come for your heads if you don't change these things. So we have a different way of looking at the transition. We don't, I cannot, I've never heard Jacque say, this is going to be voted in, because it's too different. It has to be forced in, not by us. We don't force it in. We wait for the circumstances to change, and then we say, would you like a presentation about an alternative? Would you like to see a different world? Okay. Pedro, can I ask you?
Okay. Now you are muted.
Sorry, I'm just going to say that it's difficult to keep these topics on a straight line, because all these questions to us are connected in many different ways. So I can't just give you an answer. Here it is, A, B, C, D. It's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then I jump back to A. Pedro.
Right. So yeah, my understanding is that to a system to take place, because there is no void, right? So when the kingdom crumbs, there is the bourgeoisie already to take place. The system is already there. They were already doing trades and gaining political, monetary power before everything changed. So it was just a step, so to say. Yeah. So my question to make, so a simple way to measure in my rule of using only the tools that you have knowledge of. It's very simple. You make a test, you see if the person, just like in university, if he passed the test, he can use the cell phone. Now, to understand how much everyone is giving to understand, so you can say, okay, he can have a nicer house because he's rightfully taking care of kids. I don't know if people would like a surveillance state maybe that could answer those things to really measure if someone is really giving out their best is really hard in real time, no? So what I think is more feasible is like, so say everyone that is in this call, we create a space or someone gives a land and people move there and start trying things out. And when there is already alternative states, things are working out. When the time comes, the government, the failing governments can reach out for us, you know? Do you see that happening?
Yeah, let me talk about, yeah, so you're talking about, for example, creating an some village that you go and hang out with other people. You know, you could do that. If, let's say this, if I was working with the Venus Project, I'm getting paid to do this, and this is what I want to do 24/7, and I have 10 other people that do that, I say, hey guys, let's get together, save money and work, and we need to have less money. That is something, okay? But the Venus Project's proposals have nothing to do with creating your own village. It is like having capitalism in your own village. Yes, it can work, but it is not what you're aiming for. You're aiming for it as a global system. That's what you want to get. 1 second, David, I'm going to get to you. So that is the true aim of it, not halfway. If you want to do that, fine. That's something else. I want to save money, therefore let's get together, guys. But the true aim is go for it all, a resource-based economy. If you can't have that, you present models, you hold presentations, you say, this is what the Venus Project is proposing whenever you get the opportunity. Or you contact us and we send Roxanne there, or we send other people that are more appropriate, you know, to assist with that. Regarding surveillance, now just to tackle that, surveillance in a system seems like this is not what you want. Like, who wants surveillance? But imagine surveillance in a different sense. Imagine that it is reinforcing to you that you're surveillanced. Now, we're tackling a subject here that might seem taboo, it seems, you know, but give it a chance. For example, if you're at a hospital and you're dying, they surveillance you. They plug you up, you know, immediately. When my wife was giving birth, you know, they plug her up. And when the child was born, the person that was checking her heartbeat, she said, I thought you died because I was looking at your heartbeat because it went so low. So she's surveillancing her heartbeat. Now imagine all life being like that, and the person that is monitoring, there isn't a person, it's a system monitoring you to give you gains. It's constantly there to assist you, just like a child is assisted by their parents. They're monitoring the behavior, not always for the better, but it's like a GPS monitoring you when you're going to somewhere you've never been. You know, I'm very happy that I have my GPS. It guides me. Now imagine that, never abusing you. There is no way of abusing you, only assisting you. So that's a different way of looking at surveillance. Today, don't let them surveillance you, because just like the end of the game is a profit, be careful. When you're in the hospital, let them surveillance you. So they assist you there. But there is always, you know, that problem in today's society. Okay, Pedro. David, what did you want to say, David?
Oh, hi there. You can hear me?
Yes, David.
Okay. Well, hi to all. I want to put a few concepts, let's say expand a little bit. Okay, first of all, as Peshman mentioned, TVP proposal proposes a direction, but it is in a global scale. It's not something small, okay? Of course, eventually it will start small, but that's not the final goal, okay? So one of the important things about TVP that let's call it in the beginning, in some way, it invites people to change their current mindset for a more appropriate one, okay? I think that's one of the important things about TVP that we should all eventually embrace, okay? It implies that we have to get more in depth about all the information that TVP gives to us if we want to get deeper and understand it more. And that will eventually help us to change our current mindset. I think this is crucial in many aspects, okay? Because it's not just getting rid of money, getting rid of politics and all of that. Each one of us, when the moment comes, if we are prepared and we have a more appropriate mindset, the changes will come more fast, okay? So I think it is important that more and more people know about TVP proposal. And of course, most things will not be understood really fast. Other will take more time, or for others, okay, I mean. So I suggest that we should all start study more about TVP proposal and all the basics. So I think that is an important matter.
Thank you for that, David. Now that is the key for, it's always back to the books, back to the material. Jacque Fresco is the source. And my job here is to, but sometimes a sentence has helped me to make connections. And that's what I'm trying to help you here with, just something that is not connecting, just to maybe say something and then you see that connection. But it's always better to go back to the source. Now, I have difficulties with the chat because it's pretty long sentences. If you have a question there, try to make it one sentence. Sorry about that. Okay, Cheryl, did you want to ask something? You can unmute her.
Back to everybody else and what everybody else is saying, all this is so hard because I live in Miami and I deal with a lot of Cuban people and people who have lived under communism and socialism. To hear them speak and to hear what they say when we were going through this pandemic and everything that was going on and the government was giving us this money, and I was out of work for a year. I got the government money and I thought it was wonderful that they reached out. They did this, but I was listening to a Cuban lady speak in the bakery the other day, next to the restaurant where I work, and she was like, "We can't go through this again. We cannot do this again. The government cannot pay for
Cheryl,
anything."
what is your question?
My question is, to these people, how do you really, really explain that this is not a communism or a socialism thing? Because I want it. I really wanted to come out and say something, and I really didn't know how, because her whole thing was that they don't want the government to control things.
Yeah, and the thing that they're saying, it comes from a reality that they have experienced. So, they bring their own experience and say, I don't accept the things you're saying. And we are not here to, convince every person that we meet. And usually I would suggest that, this is not a topic, 15 minutes at a coffee shop trying to explain this. It doesn't work. I can barely get 2 points across with 1 hour or 2 hours. So, the better thing to do is, do you understand the subject? That's the first thing that I ask people that talk with other people. Skip that. How much have you watched go back to the books, toss those ideas around before you interact. Because if you don't grasp the subject, maybe this is not a good subject. Maybe there's something very wrong with it. And because you haven't done your homework, you missed it. So don't presume that something that sounds great is great. Dig into it, try to toss it around and see, are there problems here? Then when you have done that and you interact with people, you will do it with more confidence because you know the A, B, C, D, E, and you're able to toss it around without getting frustrated. Matt, I'm going to unmute you there.
Can I answer her question a little bit better?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
So, Cheryl, what I'm hearing from you is that you're experiencing a narrative of control-based economies where someone's telling someone else, usually with violence backed, that you must do this or else you will be hurt, or you'll be taken, your things are taken off you, or you'll be put in prison. And that's often how communism has been forced into people's livelihoods. And that's often the people that come from those environments have experienced. They experience coercion, they experience lack of freedom, they experience lack of resources for themselves under the guise that they all get the same. Unfortunately, that's actually not what should be happening under those ideas. And so when you're looking at a resource-based economy and you're saying all the resources are audited or understood and it's allocated out based on human need, that supports the environment, it sounds close to what people are trying to identify what communism is. But the thing with the resource-based economy is that it doesn't actually have an authoritarian-led ruler or leader that's causing this. It's actually more of a consensus-built thing where we can actually engage with each other by using technology to calculate and understand what is needed and where it's needed, and so how we can all have our needs met. And when all of our needs are actually met, and I think I wrote in comments about a really powerful book called The Psychology of Good and Evil by Erwin Staub. I think I don't know how to pronounce his name correctly, but he actually writes down a list of about 9 needs.
Matt, you lagged out.
What's that?
Oh, sorry, you lagged out. You said 9 needs.
Oh yes, 9 needs.
But Matt, please don't go through all the needs.
No. I won't. But I'm just saying that when you're approaching something with a resource-based economy framework, it's uniquely different to communism and how it's been applied. However, some of the ideas might sound similar. But just remember that it's not about an authoritarian person telling you how you must live. It's about us as a community understanding that you have certain needs, and as the resources are available, you will have those needs met. And that's a very pivotal difference, because unfortunately, how power structures are set up at the moment is that the people in power want to stay in power, and they want to express their power over other people, whether it's a capitalist environment or a communist environment. Unfortunately, those tropes have been perpetuated until we stop them, or until we just make them irrelevant. It's probably better.
Thank you for that, Matt.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was very well put. Thank you for that. Okay. Let's see. Raise your hands if you have any questions. If you don't, then I'm going to try to talk about a topic. So, oh wait, I got one. Question: what is the status on the Venus Project city system? I actually want to avoid talking about status and what to do on these sessions, because it's better for you to go to the Venus Project and check out things there. You know, that's the latest update. And what to do is not the role I'm playing here, telling anybody what they're supposed to be doing. The best thing I'm going to tell you is that look at the material. I want to avoid those things because we have 2 hours here. I want to help you with the connections. about what it is instead of what are you doing. Forget about that. Let's see if we can make connections. So is this relevant? Is this Venus Project's proposals relevant? That's what we're tossing around. So please check out the website. Okay, you wrote a few questions here. Let's see here. TVP is a global system method, but it is based on localized resources. How would you approach system management? That's a great question. Eric, would you like me to let me unmute you there? I think I got your question there, Eric. Your sound isn't working, but I can tackle that question. You know, the first thing you do in a resource-based, if you're going to push for a resource-based economy, when you have it fully functional, is that, sorry, there's a question that must be, oh my God, we'll try this one more time. Here, clear this. Now, there's a question that needs to be answered before you can do anything. And that is to look in your inventory, which is planet Earth, and see what are the resources. What do you have to work with? So when a resource-based economy starts off, it does an inventory first. You know, what do we have? How many trees? You know, how much fish are there in the ocean? And how much can you take for it to be sustainable? You don't have that today. The less fish, the more somebody's going to make a buck. Then you look at the technology that you have and the people, you know, can they run the machines? Can they use the equipment? Are they educated? And there, after this, a question is asked, and that is, what is the goal? What are you trying to achieve? And nobody can answer that, as Matt was talking about. We don't have a person on top of the pyramid telling anybody anything about what we should be doing. It is more of, what do people want? So you have to do what? Just like you did an inventory, you have to do a survey of people. Might begin by asking them, what do you want? I want a house. I want my school, my kids to have clothes, toys. So you do that inventory. And then you ask this question, can we achieve these things? And the question right now is at least yes. We have more than enough to give everybody a great life. And when you do it in this way, I know it might be difficult to imagine, but you're going to live better than the richest people today. All of us are going to have a better life. And you can just imagine the kings of the past. You know, they might have had a lot of gold, but they didn't have a refrigerator. They had a slave, you know, swapping their doctor, you know, if they got an infection, the arm is coming off. So you have a lot of things which the kings of the past didn't have. And your life is going to be better when we have this going in this direction. And when you have this, there is no more these segments of people doing things for themselves. It's an interconnected system. So there is no top boss. These people don't say, don't touch our resources. The more they give to this question, the more it's given back to all of them. So if you can improve the schools of the future, that means that the people that are educated can improve technology. When they improve technology, they can put less burden upon the environment. So you get that intersection of improving technology to leave nature alone, to pull back so you don't have those influences. You have to find that balance, but you have to do a survey first. Let me know if you have any questions about that. I try to, you know, to simplify it. It's one company. Imagine the world being one company that is working together. All the people there are highly motivated and they're working together. So when they want to do something, they say, you know, how many people do we have? We have 80 people. How many computers do we need? 80. This person needs 5 extra. Why 5 extra? Well, he's going to run 5 different machines. Oh, okay. Can have 5 computers. Perfect, because when he does his work better, the better for all of us. So that's how those things are arrived at. But nobody has personal benefits out of this system. If you find a way of benefiting yourself, that means that there's something wrong in the system, that you haven't figured something out. Therefore, people will try to take it for themselves. The system you want to achieve is that the more I don't burden the system, the more I see the gains coming back to me. Eric, you had your hand up there, and that question was.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, cool. There's an issue when I use the little speaker that the microphone doesn't work. But yeah, there was something I wanted to bring up with the surveying of information. I'm gonna just text it into the chat here. For survey resources, virtual participation. Yeah, so there's a statement, but I was kind of like relating it to the questions. Like, would there be a social credit system like they use in China, but without a monetary system? I can understand that. So, and could we use like a? But that's the third one. The second question was, what would be the methods to connect local communities into the global Venus Project community, the resource-based community, and would there be like a membership program? And how would a localized group be deemed in accordance with TVP to start one of the world's city system, university system, little communities? Or what would, I know there's certain things that a state or community or what have you have to adhere to in order to access into the propriety that Jacque Fresco has with his own technologies, because I remember that was something they were talking about, how it would be kind of private and open source in one of the last.
Let me take those 2 questions first, okay? Give me a shot.
Okay.
So let's start with the first one. You know, how do you, let's say you start the resource-based economy with one city. It's a model city. Now that city might start off just to demonstrate something. You know, this is the possibilities of the future. As soon as it is capable, you want to do something. You want to try to improve the lives of others, because you don't want to have a city that is for itself, that they say, you know, close the gates. We're going to stay in here forever. That will be the end of you if you do that, because sooner or later, a lot of people will be knocking on the door. So you have to spread out. When you do that, you go to a place, maybe a country like the Red Cross. You have that same attitude of, we're here to assist you. And they say, what do you want? Say, if you find this direction relevant, you know, join us. And if you can supply them with a better life, then people get on board. They connect with you. You're not there to take it from them. You're there to say, we're going to assist you as best as we can here, and then you share resources. And if you're able to, they will join that system. If they don't, or they take it away from you, I can't do anything with that. This is how you present it. This is how you try to tackle the world. Now, that's the simple answer regarding that. You try to demonstrate and give people feedback, a way of reinforcing them. Regarding your second question, which can be an interesting one, you know, social credit. You don't have it in a fully functional resource-based economy because there is no need. Because there is, you don't need the participation of all the world's people to get the system to run. Once you set it up, it's like going to, Lego. Have you guys seen how it's automated? Then you have an automated system, and they're supplying the world with Legos, but you got, let's say, 100 people working there. You don't need 50 million people to supply Legos to all the world's people. So you have very few people managing those systems when you have it fully functional. But when you have the first city, here's the first city, and you have resources, but you don't have infinite amount of resources. So the people you put in there, they have to contribute. They can't say, I'm going to sit and meditate all day. Because not because we say so, because of the circumstances. Can't afford it. It's going to die out. So therefore, you bring in people that can contribute regarding the goals of the first city. So I say to Roxanne, hey, Roxanne, can I join? I say, sorry, Pejman. Even though you talked for 20 years about the Venus Project, at this time, there is no space for you here. Even though you know about the Venus Project, this engineer knows the basics, but his tools are more important. He can contribute towards the goals more than you can, and therefore I have to step aside. So the more this expands, the more you can give people, give them, let's say, rewards in the sense of relief. You used to work 8 hours. We have improved this. Now you work 6 hours. We improve this. Now you work 5 hours. So this is the incentive of the future. Can you just imagine if work was like that? If all of our jobs were like that? If the boss came in and said, hey guys, let's fix this. The sooner we fix it, so something does our job, we're out of here. Well, at least my job, I would be solving it very quickly. So that's the incentive of the future. And your social credit system, it is not because you're a good person. They look at the resources and say, there isn't enough tomatoes for everybody to eat 500 a day. There's 32 tomatoes a day. And I don't say that to you. The system says it. It's designed in. So you look at what is available for me at this time. And then you can go to the kitchen and have a look if you don't believe it. So, Eric, was that what you were thinking about? Rick, I'm going to take you afterwards. Oh, your sound doesn't work.
Yeah, okay. That's pretty close to that. Yeah, I was just thinking to do the transfer between a resource-based economy from a monetary to a resource-based economy. Would there be a social crediting system? But it's based on what you were saying, the carrying capacity of that city.
Yeah.
And anyone that's able to contribute to that. But my wondering is, what brings to my mind that is eminent domain and propriety of resources. So in order to set up a city that can support those individuals, it seems like you would have to have it either legally sanctioned or purchased through the economy to start a system. And then the people that put forward the money would have to be. So it's a little wishy-washy.
Do you mean that they're given priority to be part of the city because of the give money?
Well, yeah, not in that sense, but yes, generally that would be one of the expectations. I'd imagine anybody that would be put, and not just money. I'm talking about the sense of resource, and we're dealing with two different stratum. TVP, the Venus Project, is kind of not only a social organization, but it's like a philosophy of living. And when relating to the monetary system with their sense of priority of resources, that segue would be difficult in the wrong environments. You could be in an environment that's more embracive of that, but we may only have so much material for cement. You may have a country or a state or a locality that has plenty of lumber but very little cement.
Yeah.
So there's
you have to work with whatever you have. We don't work with what we wish we had. We work with what we have. So the tools and the resources that are given, you take that and you say, what can we do with this? We can build a model. Can we live there? No, we can't, because we don't have any, tubes, whatever. But we can build a model. So you work always with reality of the situation, and you do the best that you can with that. That's how attitude. Yeah.
So that segues into the other question. So you have these eco villages or communes or a state, God willing, if there was a state in the Americas, any which one of them that's like, oh, we're willing to work in this project. How would there be a membership thing? How would that segue, like the propriety of the systems designs of Jacque Fresco? I understand you're also going to need the resources of people that can actually understand and develop these city systems or these logistics methods. How would those localized communities come together?
Yeah, that is, I'm going to mute you there. And after this one, I'm going to take a Rick. So that is too detailed. That is too detailed of knowing exactly how something that specific is going to go about. Are we going to have a membership? Is it monthly or weekly? That is too specific. We talk more here in broad terms of, if you would give me, if it was, a governor says exactly here it is, 5 million, what are you going to do with it? Then I'm going to give you specifics. Or I'm going to ask Roxanne to do that. That's her job. But at this time, this is too, I can't give you that specific. Rick, what is your question?
Okay, well, I always think this when I'm thinking about the Venus Project, in that, let's say it exists, and there's all these different things, these goals that the people in it have, and let's say the technology is not there yet for everything to be realized immediately. So some things that are crappy type of daily realities still have to be done, like taking out the garbage or cleaning bathrooms and toilets. I know that eventually you can come up with a technology to do it, but in the meantime, things have to get done. So I always wonder, do people agree? They say, okay, for the greater good, we all agree to give like 2 or 3 hours a day or something to just get shit done. And then, we're confident that the technology will rise to provide a solution. I'm curious what you think about that.
Yeah. Have you heard when Jacque gives an example of the wealthiest people during, I think it was World War II, they used to eat out of trash cans. So when circumstances change, even though people have been brought up to do something, they're forced to go in different directions. Now, the difference here is that it's like working in a hospital. Everybody's getting the same pay. Everybody's goal is clear, and nobody's getting applause. So nobody holds the hand of the doctor and says, without you, we would all be, nothing would work. Because the doctor in that kind of world would say, yeah, but without the nurse, without the person emptying the trash, without the person coming here to clean the room when I exit and I have to sleep because I've been awake for 12 hours, without all of those, this can't work. So they have been brought up in a different system. Now, maybe you were thinking about the transition over to that system, which is always more difficult because people have been brought up to say, hey, what is it in for me? And what is that guy getting that I am not getting? But therefore, you have to have a system that can demonstrate that there is no difference, that we're doing it together. If you can't do that, you're gonna have problems with people saying, hey, I'm not gonna do it. It's not reinforcing to me. When you have the transition to a new world, there is no pleading with people, please, can you watch this? Because imagine this, capitalism it's not working, means nothing is working, the transition that we see. When nothing is working, people don't come and say, please, can you clean this? They say, this is your job, or all of this is going to break down. That's the beginning of it. That's not what we want. But the circumstances forces that behavior. So you have to do this, this, this. When the system gets more relieved, then you say, hey, 4 hours, 3 hours, you can have Mondays off, Thursday off. What would you like to do? We recommend that you educate yourself. The person says, I don't like education. I like to go to the bars. There are no more bars because the system isn't working. If you go to the education, you get 2 more days off. The person says, okay, then you have to make school so reinforcing that when he's at work, he's like, I gotta get back to class because I learned 105 interesting things. How can I get back to class? So this is today's society, is how can we force people to do things? The society we want to say is, how can we get people to do this, feel it is reinforcing, and it really is reinforcing, not just a fantasy of, everybody that cleans the church is doing God's work. So clean it, and God will praise you in the afterlife. No, they get real reinforcement in this life, so they're happy to do it. Rick, let me know afterwards if that wasn't clear. I'm just going to take Pedro here.
I think David wanted to talk before me.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that.
Okay. Well, related to the transition, I would like to add that it's going to be tough, but I think it's important that if we are more prepared to, in some way, act to what is coming, I think the transition can be more feasible or more, let's say, quiet. Let's put it in that way. But I want to reinforce in some way what I just mentioned a few minutes ago. There has to be a different way of thinking and doing things during the transition and later. In other words, we have to change our current mindset. That is really important. We could have resources, we could have technology, we could have everything. But if we do not change our current mindset, we are not going to the next level. Resource-based economy is not going to work because an important part of it, of the RBE, is a new way of doing things and acting. And that's all involved in a new mindset. So part of it, it is important that beyond technology and all of that, it is important that we educate ourselves towards this new society. We cannot expect to change everything in the outside, but in the inside, we stay in the same way. That's not possible, okay? So
thank you for that. Thank you for that, David. Now, it's actually, in today's society, it's a real focus on the mindset. The future doesn't work on your mind. They work on the environment. So if you want somebody to do something, how can I change the environment, for example, to give this person an incentive? Like I wanted my daughter to read books, and she went from Cat in a Hat to reading these books. Now I tried many different things, and I had great difficulties of getting her to read something. But then I noticed her cousin likes Harry Potter. Like, I don't like those books, but my goal is here to get her to read more. And then in the future, we can show the relevance of other things. So I got her those books, and she started plowing through them. And now it's a part of her, reading books. So I don't work on her mind, I work on the environment to change people. Pedro, and afterwards Kelly.
So my comments would be on what Rick was saying. So, and also taking on what is said about education being reinforced in a positive manner, that people get accelerated towards that, right? So from my own experience, it's also learning of, for example, statistics. It's not for everyone. Not everyone wants to do that. So I think one way to make everyone happy with their roles that they can participate in is to make jobs open source. So if you are not happy, when I speak open source, I have a clear idea of software. So I write a lot of software. When you go to, I use, for example, when I open a terminal, there is a random quote of interesting people that show up. I went to see the source code of that program because I wanted to do it better. It's like 2,000 lines of C code, very hard to do. So it's a lot, it's already very efficient and so on. So my idea is that I don't want to work on that. I want to work on other things. So if you do that with, for example, the person who is building the statistical methods to arrive at what everyone should eat, what everyone should do with their lives, and you say, I can do that. You say, okay, you can clean my room, for example. So I think that helps also.
Because you mean as a motivator?
Yes, in a transition, so people say, I'm not satisfied in this transition to work as a cleaner. So you say, okay, let's go through all these jobs and see if you can do these things. Yeah.
It's not like when you have limited resources, first off, the person isn't just put there and say, hey, you start cleaning. If you have limited resources, we have a position open. Do you want to clean? It's not the other way around. Because, for example, if you have one city, it's not, you just take people in because you don't have the resources to toss, whoever in. You have a place and you say, we have this place at this time. We want to do this. And then the person joins that. And when that is improved upon, you say, we don't need that part. We have now 10 open spaces for other things. So it's a constant improvement. But the main point is that the system isn't designed that you look at the cleaner and say, you clean. There's something wrong with you. It's like looking at one of your fingers and say, I don't like you. The other ones are great. They work together. And that's how that is built. There is no incentive. There is no applause. There is no medals given to anybody. And therefore, nobody looks and says, who is this? Is the cleaner sitting at my table? There is none of that. That's a part of this system, and that's why we have so many problems. That's why a doctor that is very knowledgeable sits with another doctor and doesn't give them all their tools, because hey, he might replace me tomorrow. So I say, you don't have the finesse. I don't think you will ever become a good doctor, because I have an incentive to put you down. Because when the president breaks his fingers, he calls me. In the future, I want to give my tools to everybody, because one day I might break my fingers, and I would like you to do a good operation as I can do. Kelly.
Hi. So I have a few things on my mind. First of all, I do see what everyone was talking about with problems with taking inventory, especially because we have world leaders right now, that are supposedly partners, say like with IPEC, and everybody is suspicious that the other nations are lying about their oil reserves, stuff like that we go to war over. Communism, with comparing this to communism, we have been so institutionalized to be against communism, and to be truthful, I don't even think I understand. I haven't read enough about communism to even be against it. And a history show I watched the other day talked about how communism helped the Chinese come up out of poverty after they built the Beijing Wall, and then they started trade cities with with America and other nations. And I'm kind of convinced that they're capitalist. They are just as capitalist as we are right now. So I don't know
What
why
is
we
your
would
question,
even...
Kelly?
All right, sorry. My question would be getting rid of or appealing to people that don't really want to give up a rewards and a merit-based system. Would it be possible, do you think, to have, as the transition, be a hierarchy of different systems? Maybe say the resource-based economy as like the base system, the safety net that nobody can fall through, right? Then have maybe like a democratic social hierarchy on top of that, where people can buy in by doing research data, reviewing products, something like that. The unbiased scientific community, basically, that would kind of regulate what the capitalist producers would want to put out and compete with.
That you have different systems. That is basically the question, right? That you have
Right. Well, I
communism,
mean, when I
resource-based
think
economy.
about transitioning, I think of like, you got to present something to marry to this system first, because you can't just like topple it. You can't expect people to just give up. Look at all the power that they hold. You can't do it.
Yeah, let me tackle that. Okay, thank you for that question, Kelly. Now, a lot of people feel like you have to topple the kings, the billionaires. We don't topple anybody. The system itself, the game that they're playing, is that which will make them, fold. The system of capitalism is not designed to be able to continue. I know, when we watch movies about the future, there is nothing else. It is the story of, 100 million years in the future, and the person is still buying coffee, is going to this planet, where's the gold on this planet? We're still making a buck. It's because of it's part of this system. So they always promote it as it is forever. And for most people, it feels like forever because there is no other options. So the more you learn about different systems, you start to say, hey, what about socialism? What about communism? And you toss those ideas around. And when you learn about this, then you see, hey, there are other ways of doing things. And then when you compare this to communism, to capitalism, you say, hey, this system can't work. It's not designed to work. So the billionaires with all their money, when a system doesn't work, it doesn't matter. That's why I gave you that example with the richest people eating out of trash cans, the most respectable people. Because when there was war, that didn't work anymore. Your money had no significance. So will there be many different systems? Yes, probably. You have to sell this system as best as you can. The real seller is the circumstances. When people get desperate, that's when they seek. If life is great, most likely people do not seek new information. And that is why it's important to remember 2008 for the significance regarding Venus Project was at that time when you had that crash, then people started looking for alternatives, and then that maybe motivated Peter Joseph to create a documentary, and then he needed a solution, and then he found the Venus Project. But before that, Jacque had been talking for 60 years. It was not the right time. Okay. Man, I have to save all the chat because I have no idea what's going on there. I hope you guys are enjoying that chat because I'm sorry I missed so much. Is there anything there? Please let me know if there was anything particular you wanted to bring up. Just let me know. So guys, oh, hey, Mike. Hey, Michael.
Hi. So I was thinking about things in this conversation, and thought that I had to add or a question on that. Wouldn't it be good to unmoor whenever we're talking about calculating things, the physical aspects of calculating physical property and things, which is something capitalism does not do. It kind of like it puts it all together, right? So you have the physical properties, and they're not in discrete values. They're transformed by whatever social value it has. If you were to separate those two values into two distinct currencies, couldn't that help to at least measure them to kind of manage things, and then have that be understood or understandable to people so that we could then transition to the point where we don't even really have to look at that's kind of transparent. It's in the background. It's not something that we needed. You know what I'm saying?
You're meaning the way I understand the question is, or the statement that you're making, is that, for example, if there's 10 tomatoes, those 10 tomatoes should reflect this amount of money, a constant. I unmuted you if you want to say something about
yeah. You have discrete values on pretty much everything based on the amount of resources that we have. So say, for instance, you have a community that got together and they went about staking resources, essentially saying, hey, we have this, we have that, and making each one unique so that we could actually do a full inventory on the resources we have.
Why not make it directly towards the resources? Why do the comparison?
Sorry?
And why do the comparison with money and resources? Why not just look at the resources?
Yeah, for sure. But the thing is, like, whenever we're trying to manage and work with people, and we're trying to show like the incentive structure. I mean, the incentives are there, but for some people still kind of with their minds boxed in with the regimen of the system that, you're earning something, you've got something that you're exchanging. You could have some kind of social currency that doesn't necessarily have to be like a zero-sum game, because whenever you give somebody a product, you don't have it. But whenever you have a positive engagement, there's a certain amount of benefit between both parties. There could be a win-win. And why couldn't that be encapsulated in the social currency, for instance?
Now, if I would put it in a sentence, you mean some sort of incentive for people when they're doing something, they get some sort of, here is your reward.
Yeah,
Is that-
just something that kind of creates a measurable quantity that people can see so that they have an idea as far as where they can move. I mean, money, I have a friend who always says it's the greatest control system ever contrived, you know, because it does essentially control people's behaviors to a very large degree. But I'm just saying, like, you know, if you have the right kind of structuring in it, it could help to guide people toward better engagement, better behavior. It could create kind of the framework where people could you know, work with them to do better, have better interactions. I don't know. It's just a thought.
Yeah, you know, money is not the problem. You know, money as an item. The problem we have with money is that money does not reflect reality. There is no correlation there. It's just what people feel like, not like people, but you know, the circumstances makes this expensive. Tomorrow, it costs 10 times as much. You know, what happened? You know, what happened to my money? I had a lot of savings. This is the problem we had with money, that there is no correlation with those connections. You know, tomorrow, you know, I can be bankrupt or something happened. So we have a problem with that. I'm going to stop there and take Matt's question. Matt, or a statement.
So I guess the crux of what I'm seeing in the chat is that what are the action steps? Because I noticed that you spoke about the need state, meaning that when people are in struggle, they ask for something different, and that catalyzed you to get involved in this conversation. And this conversation, in my opinion, I think it's the best system when applied. And we're talking about transition steps in a way in which is kind of abstract, and that's always been the case for the Venus Project. It's always been difficult to bring the ideology forward to now, to have it perpetuate out and be self-evident in some form. One idea is to build a city. So the question, as I guess, is, has the Venus Project got a coordination of either steps we can do today or steps we can do when the conditions are met? Like, is there a framework of how we might be able to behave to be able to bring this future into reality more reliably?
Okay, that's great. Thank you. If that was the summary of the chat, thank you for that as well. Let me see if you lagged out.
Oh, I lost you.
Oh, can you hear me now, Matt? Yeah, I think so. So thank you, Matt, for if that was the summary of the conversation in the chat, which I have missed. Now, the scenario which maybe helps you to think about this is that you have gone you have traveled into the past, and you say, man will fly. I know it. I've seen it, and somehow you know how to create it, but you don't have the tools. Say, I need funding. And you go to the king and say, you know, fund me. And he says, you sound insane. So no funding for you. If the circumstances change, there is a need, then you might get funding if you're able to sell it at that time. But before that, you have nothing. We have nothing to say, you know, should we build a city? That we can't do anything with that because we have nothing to work with. Do we have a plan? The plan is the tool that will be implemented when we are given the opportunity, and that is the scientific method. So you don't sit here with a plan. Here it is exactly what I'm going to do day one. You have to look at, what do I have to work with? What has been given to me? And then you create your plan. If you go to a company and say, hey, give me money, so what are you going to do with it? And say, you know, I want to do this, and that. And say, we don't have that amount of money. The question you need from what you need to hear from them is, how much money can you give me? And then I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do with it. That's what I feel we need at this time. That somebody, a government, whatever, whoever, says to us, you can apply for $10 million. Say, great. Then we put it up, say, this is what we're going to propose that we're going to do with 10 million. They say 100 million, and say, we scrap this. There's a new proposal because the amount changed. So the circumstances will tell us what we can and can't do. Nothing else. The rest of it is fantasy about what we should be doing. Yes, there you go. Let me know. Let me know if I'm not clear.
So what are our current circumstances? Like, how many people are involved actively in the Venus project right now, globally?
Very few people are involved. And even fewer people really, now I wouldn't say I understand the subject, because it is not a simple subject. I understand the fundamentals and I'm practicing trying to get it across. But for it to be understood by many people and get those people together to do something, you have to have something more, and those are the circumstances. When people really are pushed towards going something, then you're going to see me here 24/7. If I feel like, hey guys, now is the opportunity, you're going to see me holding public session 24/7. But right now, life is okay. Everything's, it's working. I'm not dying. The system is okay. See you next month. Okay, that's where we're at. And that's the reality of the situation.
So I really disagree with this current state of the system, in the sense that we're in for, like, we've had a volatile 2 years. A lot of unprecedented things in our lifetimes have happened, in which a lot of people are upset and disgruntled about. Now, what we're moving into is that the debt cycle is going to collapse on itself, and we don't have a structured way for the existing structure to exist beyond that. So within the next 5 years, there will be some form of currency debasement / reset, because it's being pushed up with mechanisms that they're not sustainable. You know what I mean? Like, and I can go into details about this.
No,
So what I'm trying to say is that I think what we should do is that we should activate all the people that are aware of the Venus project and like the idea of it. Start formulating step-by-step structures in which we can do on both the micro, just in our own household scale, but also of how we might be able to extend positive engagement with the people around us. Because unfortunately speaking, when people enter a time of chaos, they're not known for being able to think beyond the things that they know. They're not known for thinking beyond violence and getting their immediate needs met right now, or damn everyone else. So if we have a coordinated / reliable structure that we have trained into us to be able to say, we are moving towards something far better, but let's not sacrifice the technology we have. Let's work together and just be resilient in the face of chaos. That would be the best plan for this to be the option that comes in. Otherwise, what would potentially involve history repeating itself, with some form of leadership showing up and saying, I know the answers, I'll take care of you. Unfortunately, never actually doing so, because they never have. So what I'm trying to point to is that Jacque Fresco had some fantastic ideas, and unfortunately, in his lifetime, he wasn't able to produce the result that he wanted. We have a blending of counterintuitive norms that don't go with the Venus project right now, some of which we can change just by changing our minds, some of which we are constrained not to be able to change yet. So it's very difficult for most of us to see how we can make this happen, because it misses the steps of understanding. Unless, of course, we just audit things. We just walk around and record and create a database amongst ourselves that audits what is where and how it does it. Maybe as people that have different expertise, they can provide more insight, saying, well, that substation can produce this much power, that water reservoir holds this much water. We can start to get a semblance of an audit going in our spare time. That could be a mechanism or a movement forward that might have more engagement perpetuate. Because I mean, I've been aware of the Venus project for a long time. I haven't actively engaged in probably the last 3 years, mainly because of this problem. So I've been working on other things to try and push my life and prosperity forward, so that I can have enough to try and prosper. And the best idea I have right now is one, I've got to take myself, my wife. That's the first thing that I'm taking care of, and potential future babies. I'm preparing for that. Yeah. But the second thing is about my immediate neighbors, because in times of chaos, they're my biggest threats / allies. You want your immediate neighbors to be on side with you. So potentially building a home garden that provides me with food, which allows me to say no to other systems of supply and erosion that can happen out there beyond money.
Matt, may I
and provide
interrupt
them
you?
just with produce over the, yeah, sure.
Sure. This is the question that I want to avoid, because that is not my role, and this is not the place to toss around, what should we be doing? This is not the place for that. The reason for
Can
it,
we do?
yeah, exactly. What can we do?
You know?
And as you mentioned yourself, you're hanging, you're thinking about your neighbors. I'm thinking about my neighbors. And this is the circumstances of this society, is that, it doesn't give you, when the shit hits the fan, it will not give you space to say, hey, let's think about a resource-based economy. Because when capitalism collapses, it's going to go fast. It's not going to be slow. Hey, give you time to breathe. Do you know why it's that way? Because all companies try to achieve this. When can I give my product out in the last second? I don't like to have shit in the storage. So when companies realize, money isn't going to come in, they're going to hold. They're not going to create because nobody's buying. So suddenly you have this drop off. That's what you had with the fuel, with food products, because people stopped going to the restaurant, people stopped going out. Companies don't like that. So they're going to become better at stopping production just before something collapses. So, we're going to have a million problems, but I don't want to deal with that. What are we going to do? Or what should the Venus Project do? Because that's not my role. My role here is just to toss ideas around. You help me grow. I'm going to try to help you grow. So that's the purpose of this, Matt. So that's my way of trying to avoid this question. Okay, guys, it's almost been 2 hours, and I'm very happy that you guys joined. I hope it was rewarding in some ways. And the key is the material. Listen to that. It's going to help you, not just with the possibilities of the future, but it also changes the way you look at yourself and other people. And most people that I know get something out of that. Okay, so thank you for joining, and I hope to see you in the future. Isabel, yes, I can type. Oh, sorry. If you guys want to leave, that's fine. I'm just going to put my, it's this one. My mail here. Isabel, do you have Facebook? You can mail me on that one, Isabel. All right. Thank you guys again. See you next time. Bye.